Anybody wants a cup of coffee? Before we start, if you could get it now, because we don't want to interrupt the actual proceedings later on. Okay, welcome to day 20 of April is Poetry Month in Limerick. Today we are delighted to welcome artist Kate Hennessy, who will explore with us the intersection of painting and poetry. We look forward to Kate, who from her own experiences as an artist who has exhibited in different parts of the world, will make comparisons as well as contrasts between the act of writing and the act of painting. Kate will touch on the kinship of painters and poets, for we know that art can be poetic and poetry itself can be highly visual. Kate will make links between her own work and some of her favourite poetry. Today, in this second decade of the 21st century, I think it is more appropriate than ever to quote what the poet Wallace Stevens said in 1951. The paramount relationship between poetry and painting today, Stevens said in a lecture in the Museum of Modern Art, is simply this: that in an age in which disbelief is so profoundly prevalent, poetry and painting, and the arts in general, are a compensation for what has been lost. The Limerick Writers' Centre shares this sentiment. And you might say that the Limerick Writers' Centre is also, to some extent, adhered to this by our exhibition of poems which are currently on display on the exchange wall of St Mary's Cathedral on Nicholas Street. And this exhibition will continue until April the 30th. In summary, I reckon that what we wish to say with today's event is that poetry and visual art should share a natural audience, and that the purpose of today's gathering and of April this Poetry Month is the nurturing of the imagination and the spirit in everyday life. Painting is Kate Hennessy's first love. She gets inspiration from the sketchbooks and photos made on her travels, as well as on her visits to art galleries, churches, mosques and museums all over the world. And as we will discover today, she also finds much inspiration in poetry. Kate was born in Limerick, studied in the School of Art under Jack Donovan, later at the NCA in Dublin under Maurice McGonigal, awarded an APC in 1968 and taught art until 1995 in Dublin, Kilkenny and Limerick. She has exhibited widely in group shows such as the RHA, Sligo Small Works, the Oroptus, Clare Morris Open, Western Artists Gallery, Limerick Printmakers, Limerick City Gallery of Art. And she was also a founder member of EVA, which is currently in progress here in the city. Katie has held many solo shows all over Ireland and abroad, including the Bell Table, Davis Gallery, Rudolph, Concert Kilkenny, the Source Thurles, Lavitt's Key Cork and the Air Gallery London. In 2000, she volunteered to start art classes for asylum seekers with Doris Lumney, which later developed into studio where locals and newcomers integrated. It was located in the basement of the Augustinian Church in O'Connell Street. Her work is in many collections at home and abroad, including UL, Mary Immaculate College, Ulster Bank, LCGA and Shannon Development. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kate Hennessy.
Hello everybody, and thank you for coming. First of all, I'd like to thank Dominic for inviting me today to talk about my paintings and selecting poems which would go well with them. This was quite a challenge, as my only other experience was to talk to a small group marrying famous paintings with corresponding music. For example, I played Debussy along with Impressionist Monet's Water Lilies, Stravinsky's Rite of Spring with Picasso's Demoiselle d'Avignon, etc. I believe that painting, poetry and music are distinct languages, but all are expressing the same thing: human emotions and ideas. Hope, love, loss, sadness, patriotism and religious feeling. A poem can be a work of visual art, for instance, when written in beautiful Arabic calligraphy or European calligraphy, or even using modern typefaces. Of all three media, though, painting has lasted the longest. You can go very far back in history, and you can see the hunting scenes of people and animals in the Stone Age caves of Altamira and Lascaux, as well as many locations in the Sahara and South Africa. We have evidence of bone flutes, but we can never know or hear the music or the sounds of these early languages, so I think painting scores there. Now, what poetry means to me. The very first poem I heard was Jack and Jill went up the hill. And to this day I can recite all the nursery rhymes I learned as a child. Now I realise it was poetry as well. When I was at school then, in the Salesians down the road, I was very impressed by W.B. Yeats, Wordsworth, Shakespeare, Gerald Manley Hopkins, and I still remember their words. Fair daffodils. Nothing is so beautiful as spring. I will arise and go now. Maybe I should go now. And etc. etc. So in the 60s, we always had poetry readings and exhibitions in Limerick. But we did it all on our own. There was no arts council. There was nothing to help anybody. But it was in the 60s that we started the Wednesday night readings in King John's Castle. Limerick poet Desmond O'Grady inaugurated them. I was there that first night. There was a piper up in the battlements. We went into the turret room by candlelight, no heat, and for 4 years I never missed a Wednesday night. Now I would like to pay tribute to the late Claude and Dorina Byrne, who were prominent readers, who were very, very influential in the arts in Limerick. Painting, poetry, music, acting. And I remember their rendition of the Midnight Court. The other poets I knew well were all here. They've all passed away sadly. And unfortunately I had to add Barney Sheehan's name in just this week. Now, a little funny event happened. The late artist Peter Jackson, he caused a furore one night. He lit a joss stick inside the castle. And he waved it around and he said, "This is hash." And people didn't know what hash was, they thought it was hash. And the castle was closed down, it made the leader everything. Now, I'd also like to remember the late Kitty Breeden, who founded the Limerick Poetry Circle. Every Friday night we would meet outside our flat in O'Connell Street, and we would walk to the canal bank to below, where we would have a few jars in the pub, and usually walk back if we had the money for a taxi. Kitty Breeden. Now, I then moved to Dublin, and I attended many poetry readings in Searson's off Grafton Street, and what about that other one? What was it called? Anyway, I heard John Montague, Elaine Quillinan, Paul Durkin, all those Brian, all those poets. Now, in Limerick we have a fantastic stable of poets, but I'm not going to mention any of them because I'd be here all day and I wouldn't like to leave anybody out. But I'd like to thank Barney for all the work he did in reviving the Limerick Poets Theatre in the old house, a White House Bar, which went on for many years. And okay, we also had people reading from other countries who visited us. And I'd just like to mention that Marion Cody suggested a Syrian night around 7 years ago, when it was the start of the Arab Spring, and we had hopes that freedom and democracy would come to Syria and Egypt. How awful are the results? But we hope that Syria the war will end and the country will be rebuilt. So anyway, I hope I gave you a little insight into Limerick as a venue for poetry. And now I'd like to show you some of my work. Okay. The first painting is of an angel in St. Mary's Cathedral. And she's kind of a mourning angel, and I always loved that statue. So I wrote the names of our late poets. I knew them all. Terry Murray, especially, who passed away only last year. The poet Ryan, Desmond O'Grady, William English, Seamus O'Canada, Flann O'Connor, Brendan O'Byrne, and Barney Sheehan. So I'll dedicate tonight's reading to Barney's memory, and to Terry's as well. So the first poem I'm going to read is Emily Dickinson, Because I Could Not Stop for Death. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labour and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain, we passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quavering and chill. For only gossamer, my gown, my tippet, only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day. I first surmised the horses' heads were towards eternity. Terry Murray. Terry was a great friend. She was born in the UK, raised in Dublin. She married there and had 9 children. Widowed young, she came to Limerick and spent the last 20 years of her life happily in Limerick. And she wrote several books. She read many times and won prizes for her work. This painting is of my daughter Grania, and her father, who sadly passed away at a very young age. But this is Grania. This is Terry's poem for A Tale for Grania Smith, from her book Where the Dag Dances. Teardrops of the night goddess, solidified into pairs, turning on the threads of stems in the moonlight. Golden and ochre, the sheen on your skin. Like a heroine in a tale older than words, who has lost her way and found a king guarding an orchard on an island in the river Shannon, and he had forged for her in Irwin's Jewellers on Patrick Street a pair of silver hands, encrusted them with amber, rose quartz and amethysts, as lustrous as her eyes, holding the secret of true beauty, unaware that you possess a face to marvel at, and damning silver hands that reach to pluck the sorrows of those in pain. Hold and kiss the boots of the night goddess, golden and ochre, the sheen on your skin. Now, hold it here a second, please. Now, I have another poem by Terry Murray, and I'm going to ask Martina Breen to read it for me. It's called Another Epiphany in memory of Mary O'Hanlon.
Just to say that we were all very close to Terry Murray in this circle and spent an awful lot of time with her. She was a very close personal friend, as well as a very creative presence in our lives. Terry was the most uplifting woman and a great example of a survivor. This is the memory of another great friend, Mary O'Hanlon, unfortunately taken too soon. Mary was a former member of the legal profession, was based in Dublin, was an absolutely great character with a totally contagious laugh that would set the whole place going as soon as she arrived in. A flamboyant, great, creative, kind, thoughtful, very, very energizing person. And Mary actually was the person who collaborated with Kate and drove her and did everything possible to make the great exhibition that we all attended in London such a wonderful success. It was a great event, opened by
The Irish ambassador.
the Irish ambassador to the UK at the time. So, another epiphany in memory of Mary O'Hanlon by Terry Murray. You always came bearing gifts, shopping bags bulging with bracelets, a candle, a bottle of wine, and once a pendant shaped like a crescent moon on a silver thread that danced with iridescent light. Just as you brought wisdom gleaned from sorrow and herbs, sage, plantain, Our Lady's mantle, distilled from bottles, labelled for their properties, secret potions nourished by teardrops and the joy of living water. And long silences to take a breath in as we sipped our wine, a touch of amber that circled your neck, a laugh as sudden as a sunburst to defy the despair of cloudy days. You left us on the day that the 3 wise kings came, navigating the desert, by beads of starlight, shopping bags bulging with gifts, gold, frankincense and myrrh, to visit another Mary far from home, resting with her baby on a bed of swaddling straw. Thank you.
Painting here, I visited a church in Addington, County Limerick, in the Church of Ireland, and it has a beautiful Victorian Gothic interior, and this is inspired by a stained glass window in Addington Church, and because of its period I put in a kind of William Morris style wallpaper around it. So I thought for this one I would read The Watercolour Madonna by Tim Cunningham. And somebody told me today that Tim Cunningham is in town. Is he here?
Yes.
Is he here?
I think
He's not in the room.
Leaving today. He's not
Oh,
here.
sorry, yeah. Anyway, if he was here I would have asked him to read it. It's from his book, Kyrie. Ethereal in blue and white, the watercolour Madonna took pride of place in the window. Blue eyes, blue mantle, blue sash tied about her waist, the bluest of skies. White dress, white veil, white halo, white roses scattered at her bare white feet. But the sun has it in for watercolours, melts white like snow, steals back light, especially the blue, its laser rays, softened, bleached, imperceptibly erased. The mantle and sash, the radiant eyes, the sky we used to call celestial. Tim Cunningham. Now the next one is the carousel one now. No, it's okay. 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, there was a Mardi Gras celebration down in Ellen Street in Limerick, outside Nancy Blake's pub. And I sketched these 2 acrobats on a kind of a wooden horse, hanging onto a pole. So then I was looking, what poem would I find for this one? So my daughter found Carousel, an American woman, Rebecca Kai Gottlieb, born in 1951, and she writes poems for children. On thin golden poles, gliding up, gliding down, a kingdom of horses goes spinning around. Such spinning is magic, a dream as you say, with lavender saddle and ebony tail. Whirling to music, in moonlight spellbound, galloping, galloping, merrily go round. Now, copies, yeah. Well, I did have another very more kind of interesting painting of flowers kind of bleeding, and I had read a poem years ago called Red Flowers Are Burning, but I couldn't find it on the internet or anything. I don't remember where it went. So I decided to put in this little one instead. I'm going to call it Poppies. And it's amazing how poppies have come to symbolize the world wars, where thousands and thousands of men, especially even Irish men, fought in World War I, in World War II. Now this poem is called In Flanders Fields by a Canadian called John McRae. He fought in France in World War I. He died from diseases in a hospital in France in 1918. He wrote this poem in May 1950. Tom, you want to read this for me? Sorry, I forgot to read it there.
In Flanders Fields by John McRae, Poppies, May 1915. In Flanders Fields, the poppies grow between the crosses, row by row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the lark still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we loved, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. But now we lie in Flanders Fields, take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, to hold it high, if ye break with us we die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Now, I'm going to go back a few hundred years now for the next one, this one. First of all, I found these little lines in an book of Sanskrit language India. Is poetry always worthy when it's old? And is it worthless then because it's new? Reader, decide for yourself if this be true. Fools suspend judgment, waiting to be told. Now, this was a medieval German manuscript painting, which I loved. I thought it was the most romantic painting, a rendition of two lovers I'd seen. So I did this version of it here. The original was about 400 years old. Now, years ago, I read this very short poem, and I've never forgotten it. It's 16th century English, anonymous. Western wind, when wilt thou blow? The small rain down can rain. Christ, that my love were in my arms, and I in my bed again. That's very short. That's it. Now there's another poem that I think goes with this. It's called The Nightingale. It's by a female writer called Marie de France, who was born in 1160, died in 1215. She lived there and in England. This epic poem is the oldest surviving poem in French by a female writer. She said it was taken from a Breton lay. It concerns unrequited love. According to the rules of courtly love, knights worship their ladies, who were invariably married to someone else. So I'm going to invite Bertie McCullough to read this. It's called The Nightingale.
The cult of courtly love. I suppose we're all familiar with the fact that courtly love was very formal and often not very true or real, and that those who were bound by courtly love, if they were ladies, queens, lords, did know what true love was, but often hidden and secret. That's just a short introduction to the poem. The story I shall tell today, and this is a lady speaking, the story I shall tell today was taken from a Breton lay called Ladies in Brittany, which in proper French would be Brésilien. They'd called the tale in English lands The Nightingale. There was, near St. Malo, a town of some importance and renown, two barons who could well afford houses suited to a lord, gave the city its good name, St. Malo. By their benevolence and fame, only one of them had married. His wife was beautiful indeed, and courteous as she was fair, a lady who was well aware of all that custom and rank required. The younger baron was much admired, being, among his peers, foremost in valour and a gracious host. He never refused a tournament, and what he owned he gladly spent. He loved his neighbour's wife. She knew that all she heard of him was true. And so she was inclined to be persuaded when she heard his plea. Soon she had yielded all her heart to his real merit, and in part because he lived not far away, fearful that they might betray the love that they had come to share. They always took the greatest care not to let anyone detect anything that might be suspect, and it was easy enough to hide. Their houses were almost side by side, with nothing between them. Nothing between the two at all, except a single high stone wall. The baron's wife would only go and stand beside her bedroom window whenever she wished to see her friend. They would talk for hours on end across the wall, and often threw presents through the windows too. They were much happier than before, and would have asked for nothing more. But lovers can be satisfied when love's true pleasure is denied. The lady was watching too carefully, as soon as her friend was known to be at home. But still, they had the delight of seeing each other day or night, and calling to their heart's content. The strictest guard could not prevent the lady from looking out her window. What she saw there, no one could know. Nothing came to interfere with their true love, and 1 year in the season when she, nothing came to interfere with their true love, and 1 year in the season when the summer grows, green in all the woods and meadows, when birds, to show their pleasure, clung to their ups and sweetly sang, then those who were in love before do in love's service even more the baron, in truth, was all intent on love. The message he sent across the wall had such replies from his lady's lips and from her eyes. He knew that she felt just the same, Now, she very often came to her window, lighted by the moon, leaving her husband's side as she knew that he was fast asleep. Wrapped in a cloak, she went to keep watch with her lover, aware that he would be waiting for her faithfully to see each other. Despite their endless longing, great delight. She went so often and remained so long, her husband soon complained, insisting that you must reply to where she went at night and why. I'll tell you, my lord, she answered. Yeah. I'll tell you, my lord, she answered. Anyone who has ever heard the nightingale singing will admit no joy on earth compares with it. Their music just outside my window gives me such pleasure that I know I cannot go to sleep until the sweet voice in the night is still. The Baron only answered her with a malicious, raging laughter. He wrought a plan that could not fail to overcome the nightingale. The household servants all were sent to making strips and traps of cord or net. Then, throughout the orchard, these were fixed to hazel and hazelnut trees, and all the branches rimmed with glue, so that the bird could not slip through. It was not long before they brought the nightingale, who had been caught alive. The Baron, well content, took the bird to his wife's apartment. "Where are you, lady? Come talk to me," he cried. "I've something for you to see. Look, here is the bird whose song has kept you from your sleep so long.
Give her the bird.
Your nights will be more peaceful now. He can awaken us again." She heard with sorrow and with dread everything her husband said, then asked him for the bird, and he killed it. He killed it out of cruelty. While with his 2 hands he wrung his neck, and when he finished, flung the bird at the lady. The red drops of blood ran down and spread over the bodies of her dress. He left her alone with her distress. Weeping, she held the bird and thought with horror, rage of those who brought the nightingale to death. Betrayed by all the hidden traps they laid, alas, she cried, alas, she cried, they have destroyed the one great pleasure I enjoyed. Now I can no longer go and see my love outside my window at night where I used to do. One thing certainly is true. He thinks that I no longer care. Somehow he must be made aware of what has happened. It will be clear then why I cannot appear. And so she began at once to write on a piece of gold embroidered satin. When it couldn't hold another word, she wrapped it around the little bird. Then she called someone to be her servant, whom she could trust. With this, bidding him take without delay her message to the Chevalier. Then he came to understand everything just as she planned. The servant brought the little bird, and when the Chevalier had heard all that he agreed to know, his courtier's answer was not slow. He made a little case, not of iron or any base, but fine gold embossed with jewels. He did not count the cost. The cover was not too long or wide. He placed the nightingale inside and had the casket sealed with care. He carried it with him everywhere. Stories like this can't be controlled, and it was very promptly told. Breton poets rhymed the tale, calling it Nightingale.
Thank you very much. Sorry. I've been fascinated by India since the Beatles went there actually, and I always wanted to go. And I did finally get there, and I loved it so much I went back again the following year. I was visiting the palace in Udaipur and saw the two beautiful young ladies sitting on a windowsill dressed in saris. I'd done a bigger painting of it, but this was handy to bring. And I'm overwhelmed by the colours of India and the decoration, the architecture, the sunlight. It's just fabulous, and I'd love to go back again. So for this one I thought of Robert Herrick, To the Virgins, to make much of time. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying. The glorious lamp of heaven, the sun, the higher he's a-getting, the sooner will his race be run, and nearer he's to setting. That age is best which is the first, when youth and blood are warmer, but being spent, the worse and worst times still succeed the former. Then be not coy, but use your time, and while ye may, go marry, for having lost but once your prime, you may forever tarry. Right. Paint this one. I lowered this way. Okay. Now, I was lucky enough to get to as far as Cambodia on my holidays, and I just have two main themes that I remember. Number one, the Khmer Empire was a huge, important empire about 1,000 years ago, and they built, Angkor Wat and all those wonderful temples I've seen. But nearer to the end of the 20th century, life was very dark in Cambodia under Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. Millions died. Pol Pot led them, Khmer Rouge, from 63 to 97. And 1975 to 1979 was particularly cruel. He wanted to change society, bring it back to year zero, where he was a Marxist, an extreme one. He wanted to destroy the civilization of Cambodia. All the intelligent and educated people were wiped out. If you wore glasses, it meant you could read. You were killed, tortured, or sent to work in the fields. I found this poem by a Cambodian called Sarit Piao, and he's describing life under the horrible Khmer Rouge regime. And I have asked John Liddy to read it for me, please.
I was just thinking when Kate was explaining the point about my wearing glasses.
Yeah, you're a dupe.
If I stood up at that time and I innocently started reading a poem, I'd be dragged out.
Yeah, I know.
Be tortured.
Yeah. I wouldn't have served my time in a piggery or in Tom Collins's bar. The new regime. No religious rituals, no religious symbols, no fortune tellers, no traditional healers, no paying respect to elders, no social status, no titles. No education, no training, no school, no learning, no books, no library, no science, no technology, no pens, no paper. No currency, no bartering, no buying, no selling, no begging, no giving, no purses, no wallets. No human rights, no liberty, no courts, no judges, no laws, no attorneys. No communications, no public transportation, no private transportation, no travelling, no mailing, no inviting, no visiting, no faxes, no telephones. No lighters, no cigarettes, no morning coffee, no afternoon tea, no snacks, no desserts, no breakfast, sometimes no dinner. No lighters, no cigarettes, sorry I read that, no mercy, no forgiveness, no regret, no remorse, no second chances, no excuses, no complaints, no grievances, no help, no favours. No eyeglasses, no dental treatment, no vaccines, no medicines, no hospitals, no doctors, no disabilities, no social diseases, no tuberculosis, no leprosy. No kites, no marbles, no rubber bands, no cookies, no popsicle, no candy, no playing, no toys, no lullabies. No rest, no vacations, no holidays, no weekends, no games, no sports, no staying up late, no newspapers. No radio, no TV, no drawing, no painting, no pets, no pictures, no electricity, no lamp oil, no clocks, no watches, no hope, no life, and a third of the people did not survive, but the regime died.
That's a really powerful poem. And this is just based on a little puppet I brought back. And this was the jungle I saw there, and this was the little butterflies for in the hope for a better life for all of them. And it is happening now, and tourism has come back again. And I was really interested to see the classical dancing because Pol Pot had murdered all the beautiful dancers with their costumes, but they're reviving it, and I did see it. It was lovely. Thank you. I went to New York in 2002, just a year after the 9/11. And I went into the Metropolitan Museum of Art and I went up to have a look at the Iranian and Middle Eastern section. And it was empty. And I saw this lovely Persian miniature, and I did a very quick sketch of a man and a woman. He had a turban on. Then I brought it home. And I decided maybe he's kind of a benign version of Adam and Eve. Because I put in a snake somewhere. He's somewhere anyway. And I put in flowers and there we go. And again, my daughter Bronnie has it now. So I don't know, I thought it was just romantic like the other one I showed you from the Germans. So Rumi. Everybody knows Rumi, born and died in Turkey in the 13th century. So I like these few lines. Neither I am me, nor you are you, nor you are me. Also, I am me, you are you, and you are me. We have become in such a way that I am confused whether I am you or you are me. And two very short lines. A poet called Hafiz is the national poet of Iran, and he was born in Shiraz, or he was buried in Shiraz. I went to his grave and met a lot of the school girls, and I had a few words of Farsi. It was great fun, and I said a nursery rhyme to them. But anyway, Shiraz, I have only 2 lines from a very short verse of one of his poems. At the beginning, your beauty shone with rays of glory. Love came and set the whole world on fire. That is Hafiz. Okay? Now, so 3 years years ago, I went, there were only 6 of us on the tour. It was called a Christian Tour of Armenia. And there were 4 women and 2 men on the tour. 3 of the women were in the Patchwork Society, but we didn't know it. And one of the men was at school with my husband. It's so funny. Life is so funny. Yeah. But I was struck by the similarities between ancient Armenian art and the Irish Celtic art of the monks. So every day we visited 2 churches or monasteries, Orthodox, and a wonderful library called Matenderan Library. So I took roughly the design of the facade of a church, which was all in stone. This was their version of a Madonna and Child, which reminded me of the one in the Book of Kells. So I put in little Kells figures. These little men are in the Book of Kells. This would be an Armenian arch, all carved. So this is an Irish angel from the Book of Kells. This is an Armenian angel. These little birds are from Ireland. He's St. Mark, one of the Gospel writers in Ireland. It's an Irish high cross. And their crosses are on slabs, and they're very, very elaborate. They're on flat slabs. They're beautiful. And all these little motifs come from there as well. And that would be the look of a stone church over there. So years ago, I was in Kilkenny, visiting Kilkenny for the Arts Week, and I saw a movie I've never forgotten by an Armenian film director called Sergei Parajanov, and it was called The Colour of Pomegranates. It's on YouTube. It's very visual, very beautiful. So I just took this lady holding a piece of lace in front of her face in a medieval costume. So when I was there, it was 100 years after the genocide committed by the Ottoman Turks on Armenia in 1915. And everywhere there were big signs, 1915, to remind you. And I went to the Holocaust Museum there, and I saw photographs from the time which were horrific. I'll never forget them. The Turks even to this day deny there was a genocide. They say, oh, just a few people died. But the Armenians say 1.3 million were killed. And for centuries Armenia was overrun by all the more powerful countries, Rome, Greece, Turkey, and of course Russia, until the recent liberation of the USSR. So now they're independent. I found these powerful words by William Saroyan, who was an Armenian-American writer, died in 1981. I should like to see any power of the world destroy this race, this small tribe of unimportant people, whose wars have all been fought and lost, whose structures have crumbled, literature unread, and prayers are no more answered. Go ahead, destroy Armenia. See if you can do it. Send them into the desert without bread and water. Burn their homes and churches. Then see if they will not sing, laugh and pray again. For when 2 of them meet anywhere in the world, see if they will not create a new Armenia. Yeah, because of the monks and the illuminations, I looked up this old Irish poem, Pangur Bone, you all know it, about the monk and his little cat. And there were 3 different versions, one by W.H. Auden, Kuno Mayer and Robin Flower. But I chose the one by W.H. Auden. And I'm going to ask my daughter to read it. Pangur Bone. Yeah.
Anger, white anger, how happy we are along together, scholar and cat. Each has his own work to do daily. For you, it is hunting, for me, study. Your shining eye watches the wall. My feeble eye is fixed on a book. You rejoice when your claws entrap a mouse. I rejoice when my mind fathoms a problem. pleased with his own art, neither hinders the other. Thus we will live forever without tedium and envy.
Thank you. Yeah, more brothers. This painting I called China, but actually it has two meanings. It could be a country or it could be this ware that we have in these are glass cases. And this is a Chinese wine jug which is in the Hunt Museum. So I put in some more ink in the Hunt. And then there was a great exhibition of 19th century photographs of Asia about 2 or 3 years ago in the Hunt. That was one of them. That was my own widow plate at home. And then another one. And then I decided a few dragons. So I put in a few dragons as well. So I called it China. Well now, as this is a wine jug, got me thinking about wine in poetry. So, there's a guy called Li Ho, Chinese, 791 to 817. Short, don't worry, it's short. A glass goblet, deep tinted amber, crimson pearls drip from the wine cask. Boiling dragon and roasting phoenix weeps jades of fat. Silken screens and embroidered curtains float in the scented breeze. Blow the dragon flute, beat the lizard skin drum. White teeth sing, slender waists dance. More than ever now, as the spring nears its evening, and peach flowers scattered like crimson rain. Be advised by me, stay drunk in all your life. Wine does not reach the earth, and Luling's grave. And the other one, Li Po, similar name, same century, drinking alone in the moonlight. If heaven had no love for wine, there would be no wine star in heaven. If earth had no love for wine, there would be no city called Wine Springs. Since heaven and earth love wine, I can love wine without shaming heaven. So then I had to look at the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. He died in 1122. And David's lips, I just have 3 small verses. And David's lips are locked, but in divine, high-piping Palladi with wine, 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 red wine. The nightingale cries to the rose, that yellow cheek of hers to incarnadine. Here with a loaf of bread beneath the bough, a flask of wine, a book of verse, and thou beside me in the wilderness. And wilderness is paradise enow. Oh, come with old Khayyam and leave the wine to talk, the wise to talk, sorry. One thing is certain, that life flies. One thing is certain, and the rest is lies. The flower that once hath blown forever dies. I've been fascinated by Persian miniatures, so I did this kind of example, enlarged it and changed it around a bit. But it seems to be a king and a woman offering him fruits or something. So I just found this on Pinterest. When a woman treats a man like a king and a man treats a woman like a queen, they make one hell of a team. Yeah. Now the other one, his hair is a bit grey. So I found this recipe from India, 11th century. How to turn grey hair back into black. Take 6 parts of myrobalans, whatever that is, 2 parts of fibrous pomegranates, and 3 parts of turmeric, and pound them all together. And then stir in 6 parts of egg, and add of hair oil, 20 parts. Now place the whole in an iron vessel, covered with a lid, also of iron. Bury in the ground, packed around with horse dung. Leave it for a month. Then mix with milk, until you have achieved ointment consistency. Massage it well into your scalp and beard. Wrap around with leaves of castor oil plant so that it will hold its firm position while you sleep. Next day, rinse off when you awake. 3 times repeat at 7-day intervals. And with this treatment, your hair will stay until your dying day as black and glossy as a bumblebee. The final one now. Won't keep you too long, okay? Yeah. Your horse hair, yeah? Now, this is a picture of the Empress Theodora and her retinue. They are marching up the side of a church in Ravenna, and her husband, the Emperor Justinian, is on the opposite side. Now, I've never been to Ravenna. I've always wanted to go there, but I got a great art book on it, and it really inspired me. So the originals are in mosaic, so I worked it out in stitches. And finally, I am booked to go to Ravenna next August. So I finally get to see it. So I thought that this beautiful poem, He Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven, would suit it. So I'm going to ask Patrick Maloney. He's going to recite it for me. Because Patrick is amazing. He can recite poems. No matter who you mention, he remembers them all. He remembers all the words. He knows so many poems. So Pat, please take the floor.
He wishes for the cloths of heaven.
I die.
No, you're right.
Remember it.
I was written, oh yeah. And I the heavens in bridal cloth, in rod and gold and silver line, blue the dim and the dark cloud of night and light and half-light. I will spread the cloud under your feet, and I being poor have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams.
I'm ending now. I didn't keep you too long, exactly an hour. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks a million, Kate, for that really fantastic connection between poetry and painting and your own work, the new insights into how you work yourself. I was delighted with it. That was great. I think galleries, art galleries and libraries are probably very similar. They're both repositories of the imagination. So great for that. Thanks a million. That's not the end of our events for April's Poetry Month. Anybody wants a brochure, we have them here. Our next event is next Monday night in Narrative 4. We have 2 fantastic poets, Helen Mark from the UK and our own local poet, Edward O'Dwyer. That's on at 7:30 in Narrative 4. I'd love to see you there. It'd be great.